Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're looking at some of the creepiest mysteries that were finally solved. Yet again, I'm filming this at 10:30. I'm gonna freak myself out.
The face on Mars. This is one of the most popular space images of all time. Taken by the Viking orbiters back in the mid-70s, the picture depicts the Cydonia region of Mars. People immediately noticed that one of the features bore a striking resemblance to a human face.
That does look like a human face. I mean, there's the eyes, there's the nose, there's literally nostrils and a mouth. And that looks like hair. Yeah, that's a bit too weird to be just a coincidence.
Speculation immediately flew to aliens or some kind of human habitation on the supposedly barren planet. But nah, the answer is much more boring. Turns out this was just an optical illusion, the result of lighting, angle, and a low-resolution picture.
Oh, never mind. Right, yeah, that explains it. I mean, that's basically how most of these are explained. That's the thing with videos like that, like you look at it and you think of like a big conspiracy theory, and then it just turns out to be lighting and angling.
More recent and much better photos have been taken of the same location, and they reveal nothing but a boring hill with face-like characteristics.
Or does it? Have they actually removed the face? I mean, you don't know. Apparently you can't trust the government in 2022.
The Trunk of Bones. Back in 1993, Unsolved Mysteries aired a mystery about some old bones.
Let's just see what's in here. No telling what we'll find.
Oh.
Find much of anything.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry, why is there just like a box filled with bones? That looks like a human bone as well. Is it like fake? Is it like a loved one? I mean, if someone does die, do you have to bury them? Can you keep like their body in the back garden? Can you keep their body in a box?
In 1986, John Morris gave his friend Newell Sessions an old steamer trunk. Inside the trunk was a human skeleton, and the skull was found to contain a bullet.
Oh my god, wait, so that's literally someone who's like been taken out. Why did his friend give him a box filled with like bones?
X-rays revealed a bullet was lodged in the skeleton's skull.
And that usually comes from someone getting shot, doesn't it? So he's literally just found a missing person.
A police investigation was launched, and Morris claimed to have no knowledge of what was inside the trunk as he never actually opened it. Before investigators could probe Morris further, he took his own life.
Wait, what? That's the guy who got given the box. So someone got given a box from their friend. It turns out it had a body in it, and then he got questioned. He didn't know what was in it, and then he took his own life. Or did someone take his life for him? I mean, I don't know. That's kind of freaky, isn't it? Imagine just randomly got a box and like it's just filled with bones. Imagine someone's buried in your back garden. I mean, you don't know, they could be.
The case remained cold until 2017, when DNA identified the remains as belonging to one Joseph Mulvaney.
Okay, so I think we've got like a Marine, Joseph Mulvaney. So this case was back in like 1980. So after 40 years, basically they found out who it was. That's quite sad because his relatives probably aren't really around anymore. I mean, imagine like your husband, your brother goes missing and your whole life you don't know what happened to them.
The DNA test was conducted with the help of Mulvaney's descendant, who believes that Mulvaney was killed by John Morris.
Who's John Morris? Is that the guy who got given the box or the one who owned it in the first place? I can't remember. Either way, someone took their own life. Were they guilty? Were they scared that they were caught? I mean, why was that poor guy in that box all alone? What did he do to get killed?
The Tunguska event. In the early morning of June 30th, 1908, a remote area of Russia was hit with a massive and mysterious blast. This blast completely leveled over 800 square miles of forest and flattened 80 million trees. No source could be found for the explosion, so no one knew what exactly happened.
I mean, we're gonna find out what it was in the end, but I'm assuming it could have been like a meteorite or like, I don't know, like a UFO. Imagine like America bombed Russia back in that time.
Thousands of scientific papers have been written about the incident, and the area has been studied for decades, with many trying to crack the bizarre case. It is now generally agreed that a 200-foot meteor traveling 60,000 miles per hour exploded in midair over the area.
Okay, so yeah, it was a meteor just like I suspected. I mean, meteors are really scary because like they could literally come out of nowhere. A meteor literally hit Russia there. Like someone who was living there is probably dead. Well, they're probably dead now because it was 100 years ago. But like if a big meteorite was coming towards London, would the government like try to shoot it? I swear they've done that recently with a meteorite. Like a big meteor was coming towards the earth and they like broke it up. It's quite crazy how we're literally a small rock floating in space,
resulting in what's called a meteor airburst. This airburst then leveled everything below the meteor's detonation site.
Well, I mean, I guess we found out it was a meteor in the end. Have you ever seen a meteor? I think I've seen a shooting star, or was it a UFO? I mean, I just looked up at the sky and I seen something shooting. A shooting star isn't a meteor, is it? I'm getting too confused.
The death of Ryan Stallings. Patricia Stallings brought her sick baby Ryan to the hospital. The doctors found what they thought was ethylene glycol in the baby's blood, leading them to conclude that he had been poisoned. He recovered, but Patricia was suspected of the poisoning.
Okay, so they think a mother's brought their sick baby in and they think that she's poisoned it. Why would you ever do that to a child? Like, I don't understand it. I know some mothers can get, is it post-birthing depression, where they get like really depressed, like their hormones are all over the place. I don't understand how someone could hurt like such an innocent wee baby.
Following a future visit, Ryan fell sick again and died. Patricia was again blamed for poisoning Ryan and charged with homicide.
Okay, so they think the mother has killed the child. I've got a feeling that isn't what happened. Maybe he had like a disease, or maybe someone else was poisoning him. I mean, you don't know. I guess we're about to find out.
She was not allowed to attend Ryan's funeral.
She later gave birth to another son, and he exhibited the same symptoms.
Okay, so another child has the exact same symptoms. Is it maybe a genetic thing? Imagine the stress that poor woman was put through. Everyone thinks that she killed her baby and she wasn't allowed to go to a funeral.
It was later found that both children suffered from a disorder called methylmalonic acidemia. An acidic byproduct of the disorder can be mistaken for ethylene glycol.
So yeah, it was basically a medical issue that they had. That's so sad, isn't it? Because she was literally charged with murder, so they think that she poisoned the child. I mean, thank God we got the science and intelligence that we've got nowadays where you can actually, you know, tell if a baby's got stuff like that.
Patricia was released from prison and successfully sued the lab that tested Ryan's blood.
At least she got released from prison. That's so sad because she literally got put in jail for something that she didn't do. And also in jail, if you do stuff to kids, can be anything, they will target you.
Stonehenge, one of humanity's greatest marvels. Stonehenge has been standing for thousands of years.
This sounds like really bad, but couldn't you like walk up and like push it over? Are you allowed to go into it? I mean, whenever I was younger, I used to always think you could casually just walk into the pyramids in Egypt. I mean, could you? Like, I kind of want to explore them.
But where exactly did the giant stones come from? They're all pretty much symmetrical. 13 feet high, 7 feet across, and each weighing 25 tons. Experts have been trying to crack the case for hundreds of years. Some will have you believe that it was aliens, but no.
Okay, so they don't think it was aliens. I mean, a lot of people think that aliens were the people who helped make the pyramids, don't they? I knew the pyramids were big, but like whenever you see them in real life, I haven't by the way, but they are gigantic. It really does make you think were slaves actually able to build that, because like they are massive.
It was really just the nearby woods. In 2019, researchers were able to do tests on a small area of extracted stone and sourced it to the nearby Westwoods in Wiltshire.
Okay, so they found the stones came from the woods, but like how was it like put together? I mean, they're all exactly the same weight, they're all exactly the same length. You know, it's not like they got like scales and like a ruler to like measure it all out.
The location has finally been pinned down, but one tantalizing question remains. How did they drag these 25-ton boulders 15 miles to the south?
I mean, I'm wondering the same thing. Was it witches maybe? With witches, I don't know why, but I used to always think of Harry Potter. Like, imagine them going Expelliarmus and like zooming like the rocks across the world.
The Centennial Olympic Park criminal. On July 27th, 1996, Atlanta's Centennial Olympic Park was bombed during the Summer Olympic Games.
Oh my god, they proper put that out there, didn't they? So some lunatic has got a bomb and bombed the Olympic Park. I'm telling you, the 1990s were a crazy time, especially 1970s. Back then, people wouldn't lock their front and back doors, like they'd just leave it open. And they'd also open the door to everyone else, probably why so many people died from serial killers. Thank god I'm now paranoid that every single person who knocks on my door is here to kill me, because it means that I don't open it.
The blast injured hundreds, but thanks to the heroic efforts of security guard Richard Jewell, direct deaths were limited to 2 people. Jewell himself was initially pegged as the culprit, but he was eventually cleared, and the case remained a mystery for several years.
Okay, so the guy who basically saved a load of lives got accused of planting the bomb. Yet again, I couldn't imagine that. Like, imagine getting accused of crimes that you didn't do. That's why I don't get involved in stuff, because like, at the end of the day, if you find a dead body and you ring the police, you're gonna be their #1 suspect until they find another suspect. And that is another reason why I don't leave the house, because I don't want to get accused of doing a crime that I didn't do.
The FBI was eventually led to a man named Eric Rudolph, who had committed various other bombings across the American South. Rudolph was finally arrested in 2003 and pleaded guilty to all charges.
Did they kill him? Is there like the death penalty still? I don't really agree with the death penalty because I feel like that's the easy way out. I mean, I think what you should do, put him in a cell all alone with no human contact and throw away the key. Eventually the quietness will torture him to insanity.
He was given 4 life sentences and is currently held in a supermax prison in Colorado.
Okay, so he's still being held in prison. Usually with guys like that, they like, you know, off themselves, or like, you know, they're able to escape. It looks like he wasn't that lucky.
The disappearance disappearance of Jamal Khashoggi.
Okay, so I actually think I know a tiny bit about this. Basically, this man was planning to expose the Saudi Arabia government, and then I think they basically, you know, ended his life because they didn't want him saying stuff about them.
The case of journalist Jamal Khashoggi was all over the news in the fall of 2018. On October 2nd of that year, Khashoggi went missing while visiting the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. At the time, Khashoggi was living in exile as he was penning scathing articles that criticized the Saudi Arabian rulers.
I'm so happy I don't live in a country like that. Like, I can criticize the government all I want. I can say the most awful things about them. However, whenever it comes to countries like that, like if you speak against the government or like the royals, you will be met with awful stuff.
While his fate remained a mystery for weeks, most people had a good idea what happened. Khashoggi was killed inside the consulate. It was eventually revealed that Khashoggi did indeed die inside the building. And on October 25th, Saudi Arabia's Attorney General admitted that it was a premeditated homicide. The CIA later concluded that Khashoggi was assassinated on the orders of Saudi Arabia's crown prince.
I mean, of course he was. You know, at the end of the day, if he's going against the government and telling people the truth about them, they're going to take him out. It happens a lot more than what you'd think, especially in Russia. What are then like rich Russian people called orchinists or something like that? Recently, a lot of them have been disappearing or like have died mysteriously. There was one a few weeks ago where like he was found dead in his apartment with all of his family, and they think that it was like suicide, but it's like, would he really take his life and his family's life? It doesn't add up, and I think we all know who's behind it.
The death of Junlin.
Yet again, I think I know what went on here. If I am correct, this guy had his life taken away by another guy. We're gonna see if I am correct.
One of the most notorious videos in the history of the internet was uploaded on May 25th, 2012.
And I'm not gonna watch it because I don't like stuff like that. If you've ever got a few hours and you want to watch something on Netflix, type into Netflix, "Don't F with cats." It basically explains all of this, but a man who used to murder cats took this guy's life, and in a really brutal way.
Titled One Lunatic, One Ice Pick, it depicts an Asian male getting killed and dismembered by an unidentified figure.
We eventually found out who the man was in the end, and it actually turns out he was doing basically the same thing to cats before he turned to a human. Whenever I watch serial killer documentaries, they usually start out with hurting animals and then they move on to humans. So if you ever do like see someone like hurting an animal out in public, a video online, please report it to the police because you could be stopping them going to something even more sinister.
Various body parts were then sent to schools and federal offices across Canada, and these remains were linked to the man who was killed in the video.
Exactly, like it's bad enough that that happened, but it was literally filmed and put online, and his body parts were sent to schools and government official places. There was a really big manhunt as well, and I actually think the people who were hunting him for doing it to the cats eventually were able to piece together that he done it to the kid.
The case made international headlines and remained a mystery for several days. But investigators quickly traced the grisly homicide to a man named Luca Magnotta, who had already fled the country. An international manhunt ensued, and Magnotta was finally captured in Berlin on June 4th.
They didn't really tell us that much, but basically the people who figured out it was him were the people who were after him for doing it to the cats. Don't F with cats, watch it on Netflix, it's really good, but it's also kind of scary, so do be warned.
The Vampire Clan. One of the creepiest episodes of Unsolved Mysteries involves Rod Farrell and his so-called Vampire Clan. In November of 1996, Jennifer Wendor found her parents beaten to death inside their Florida home. The case went unsolved for weeks, although police immediately suspected Farrell in the killing, as he was close to the Wendorf's other daughter, Heather. Farrell was the leader of a Kentucky cult centered around vampirism.
Yet again, why would you ever want to be a vampire? That's like the worst possible thing. I don't understand it. Like, this is why I also don't communicate with people. People are so good at hiding who they really are. Like, you don't know your best friend could be in a cult like that.
The grandmother of a member helped police apprehend the cult, and both Farrell and a man named Scott Anderson were found responsible for the Wendorf's deaths and given life sentences.
They kind of do look like people who would do stuff like that, don't they? I always say don't judge a book by its cover, but I've got a feeling with people like that we definitely have to judge them by the way they act. I mean, I know loads of people who'd probably be doing stuff like that. Well, anyways, guys, that's where I'm gonna leave that video there. That was some of the creepiest mysteries that were finally solved. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe and yes, I'll see you all in my next video.